Last season was magical for the city of LA. I mean, the Rams made the playoffs, but the Chargers, after decades, at least what felt like decades, of Phillip Rivers and his 20 kids, you move on. You go into the draft. You grab Justin Herbert to oohs, ahs, and ahs. I mean, you either loved Herbert or you hated Herbert. There was no real middle ground for a lot of people when it came to Justin Herbert. But you know what? He looked like the right choice. And you go from one franchise quarterback to the next. That's picture perfect. Now you got a new coaching staff with Anthony Lynn gone. There's optimism. There's hope. But with how good Herbert looked last year, should you be ready for a little come down, a little letdown? Well, we're going to talk about all that today. What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo. Just in case you did not know so, we're going to be taking a look at the roster, a little bit of a breakdown, a deep dive, if you will. And then we're going to, or at least I'm going to give you my projected starters. Again, my opinion. And then I'm going to give you a prediction, which is also my opinion. Can't wait to hear what y'all think about it in the comment section below. I love the discourse. If I miss anything, as always, let me know. And again, not being a Chargers fan, I could have got something wrong. So let me know in a loving way. Dang, man, some fans, they're cutthroat. They're out for the juggler. Let's go ahead. Let's get into the nitty gritty of this. And we're going to start looking at the roster. Let's start with the offense here. So we got Joe Lombardi coming in, right, with Brandon Staley. And it's weird how he describes this offense, right? Because he's like, man, do I feel dark? I feel dark. Maybe I need to bring my light a little forward. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. We're too deep in. So he brings in Lombardi here. And Lombardi, how he describes his offense is a combination between the Saints and the Niners. And words from his mouth. He says this is Sean Payton's passing game with Kyle Shanahan's running game. I love the sound of that. That is like a perfect love child. How will it fare? We will see this season. But let's start with Justin Herbert. Now, Drew Brees, he attended the mini camps and he raved about Justin Herbert, which is great because Herbert might be the biggest question here on offense, at least in my opinion, because we all know he has all the tools. He's got brilliant arm talent. But where he really struggled last year was where, well, all rookies struggle, and that's thrown in the middle of the field. You just don't see those linebackers, those safeties in coverage, and a lot of times it turns to turnovers. And I really do think with Herbert, there will be a bit of a regression just because of how well he played last year. But part of that is also a lot of the statistical categories he was among the top in. They're very volatile. How he was under pressure, how he was on third downs. What else? We got how he was downfield. Like all those, typically we're seeing shifts every year. It's a very volatile category. I mean, just to put a little example there, Carson Wentz, before the injury, he was putting up that type of season. And a lot of people be like, oh, he wasn't the same after the injury. Or maybe it was just he was very good in at those things, and that's not sustainable. So I'm not saying Herbert's going to be bad by any means. I'm just saying with the new offense, with fans back, just expect a bit of regression. I'm not saying a big sophomore slump, but I'm just saying don't get your hopes up. Don't get your expectations too up. The kid's still young. Yes, he's the face of the franchise, but I'm just saying. I know the offense looks much better, but I just want you to reel back those expectations. I'm a Dolphins fan. I know what it is to get your hopes up. Just go in, be a little pessimistic, and be like, all right, I expected this. Or even if he just comes out and Josh Allen's this year, then you are pleasantly surprised. Look at that. Look at how that works. That's beautiful. That's wow. All right, what else we got going on here? So, With Lombardi, he also says Austin Eckler is going to have a big role in this offense. I really believe it. Austin Eckler is one of the most underrated run backs in all of the league. I also expect, again, projection on my part, I expect Larry Roundtree might not even make the roster, but I expect him to take a big role. I think he's going to take over for Joshua Kelly. I wasn't a big fan of Kelly, and I think that kind of bolted true. I know that the offensive line wasn't great last year, but I also don't think Kelly's that good either. They bring back Justin Jackson, so they'll probably keep those four. I couldn't really tell you much about Darius Bradwell, but I assume it's going to be those four. And look at that, you got old reliable back there, Chase Daniel. He is like he is like spoke of like he is the best backup quarterback in all of the league. Interesting. I mean, he ain't half bad. I won't say he's the best. I mean, not when Gardner Minshew's out there. Whoa. So the biggest improvement, obviously, is coming from the offensive line, right? They went in, they drafted Rashawn Slater. It was kind of anticipated that they would try to go tackle in the draft, or at least offensive line in some manner. They also bring in some good vets in Ode Obushi and Matt Filer, right? I think it's Filer. But out of Pittsburgh. Those guys, very good vets. They're solid. They're going to help that offensive line creep back towards being solid. And honestly, Ibushi might be the weakest part of that line. And he again, he's a very, I'm not going to say he's a very good player, but if he's the weakest part of your line, you got a good offensive line there. Corey Lindsey come into the squad after just slaying it in Green Bay, was probably the best center last year. Brian Bulaga, hopefully he can stay healthy. I thought it was pretty interesting that they list Braden James, the rookie out of Nebraska here at guard, because I really do think he's a tackle. I don't know if he holds up on the interior. Very good pass protector though. Not so great in the run game. Trey Pipkins is still there. Scott Quisenberry, I think, is a good depth. Storm Norton, man, former XFL cat. Don't know if he's going to be seeing much playing time, but so the offensive line, at least in terms of the 5 starters, looks much improved. Very good. Bringing in a KG vet like Jared Cook, I thought was a big get. And then they went out, and I would say, yeah, Trey McKitty was a bit overdrafted, but to understand, this dude is a very good blocking tight end with some untapped receiving capability. Just Georgia, they didn't throw the ball a ton to him. They didn't use him in that manner, but you kind of saw it at the Senior Bowl, man. Dude has 11-inch hands, made a grip of one-handed catches, so something to be encouraged about. Speaking of the XFL, wasn't Darnell Parham also XFL as well? Could be getting that wrong. Not positive. Looking at the receivers, and I kind of want to bring this up because just given Lombardi's track record, Mike Williams, he's in a contract year. I think he might get treated as the Michael Thomas. Again, could be wrong about this. Might get treated, but I think he's going to get treated like the Michael Thomas in this receiving core. And I think he's just going to get fed targets. It's a contract year. We've seen receivers do that. We just saw with Corey Davis. It happens. So could be something. There could be something there. I'm just presenting it to you. Obviously, Keenan Allen, talking about one of the most underrated receivers in the league. The guy has back-to-back injuries. I think they were both ACL injuries. And since then, he has been stellar, dude. Stellar and healthy for the most part, which is always good to see. Now, the question is, who will be that third wide receiver in the mix here? And there's obviously 3 interesting names to point out. Because you got Keenan Allen, who can play in the slot. He can play on the outside, either or. Josh Palmer, I think, fits better as an outside threat. Not saying he can't do the slot, but I think he's just better on the outside. And honestly, I expect him probably be the 4th, 5th receiver on the depth chart. I don't think we're going to see a ton of him this year. Could be wrong. I mean, I was a huge fan of his. I was one of few, I guess, scouts, analysts, wherever the hell you want to call me, that actually pegged Josh Palmer before the Senior Bowl and then kind of stood on him being a 3rd round pick. I'm a big believer in this dude. Bringing up some of the receivers from last year. So we got Jalen Guyton, who can play outside. He can play slot. So he's got a bit of versatility there that works well with Keenan Allen. But I'm kind of leaning with Tyrone Johnson, who really showed out in some games last year. And I think he was just way more, what's the word, reliable than Guyton. Guyton, dude, had a load of drops, like 6 drops last season. Johnson, sure hands, no drops. Targeted 26 times, brought in 20 of those balls. The dude was nigh unstoppable. Well, yay, unstoppable. Downfield, I think he reeled in 5 receptions on 11 targets on 20 yards or more, which means on 20 yards or less, he was catching everything. Phenomenal. Also, keep in mind, this guy is a great contested catch target. He was 3 for 3 last year. I'm honestly a big fan of his. He was a undrafted free agent at Oklahoma State. So I kind of like him coming in, playing on the outside opposite of Mike Williams, and then Keenan Allen shift into the slot. But as you can see, there's a lot of different things they could do at receiver here. Like, this might be low-key one of the better receiving cores in all of college football, in the NFL. It just maybe a couple of guys route off because they'll probably keep a 6 receiver. And I really think it's probably going to be Joe Reed just because of his special teams, his return man capability. But you can make a case for KJ Hill, but he was a late rounder last year at Ohio State. Really just a slot guy only. Jason Moore, we saw a little bit in games, but I really would say it'd be either Hill or Reed. So that'd be interesting to watch. But this offense looks very good. Very good, and they're going to need some firepower to hang with the Kansas City Chiefs. If the Broncos get Aaron Rodgers to hang with that offense. And really with the Raiders, you really don't know what Raiders seem to expect. I know that a lot of people sleep on the Raiders, but this is a team that team really can compete with anybody. Unfortunately, I really mean can compete with anybody. They could be playing the Chiefs to the final snap, the final play, and then get blown out by like some sub 500 team. That's just the Raider way, man. That's just the Raider way. All right, let's move on to the defense. So the defense here is coached by Ronaldo Hill. Him and Staley actually have some. They've been together for a little bit. In 2019 they were both under Vic Fangio. So I think you could suspect that they're going to run a similar scheme. So we're going to see the 3-4 that Staley ran last year with they're probably going to like to stack the line on early down. So we're going to see like 3 down linemen, 2 pass rushers on each side. Like Staley really liked to do that because at that point the two great things about that is you force one-on-ones on the outside, especially with a guy like Joey Bosa. You want to take advantage of that, and it pushes the running back to the outside. So I expect to see that on early downs. And then also we're going to see a lot of cover 3. We're going to see quarters. That's just the coverage that he runs. It is what it is. We're going to see 2 high looks all the time, like we did with the Rams. Again, this is all just kind of projecting what Staley did last year. And which I think actually bodes well. Let's look at the defense. And let's talk about the secondary for a little bit. So Nasir Adderley, this dude's got ridiculous speed. I know he hasn't really he was hurt his rookie season, and last year wasn't so great for him, but like he really does have some ridiculous range. Derwin James, obviously, like, this is a guy that can really fill in wherever. Like he can play on the outside, in the slot, in the box. He can play deep. He really could do a little bit of it all. But with guys like Alohi Gilman and Mark Webb, those guys are really just box-only type of safeties. But put them in a cover 2 look, especially if it's only quarters. You kind of make them less susceptible of blowing coverages, especially if you got 4 guys deep rather than having them rely on the middle of the field. And I don't know if we'll necessarily see those guys. Obviously, with Derwin James' health, it's something you might need to bring up. But Nasir Adderley is obviously the guy in cover 3 that's going to be fielded in the middle of the field. It's a weird way to phrase it. While we got Webb and Gilman, they're more of the box guys. When it comes to the corners, I find this interesting that they put Tavon Campbell here as a starter. They might be high on him. He wasn't that great. I know it was a rookie season. Was there? No, he was originally in. I think he was drafted in 2019. I don't know. Regardless, his play last year for the Chargers wasn't all that great. We only saw him on like a little over 300 snaps, but it was nothing promising. He does have the flexibility to play on in the slot or on the outside, but I still think I'd rather go with Chris Harris or Asante Samuel in that role. Asante Samuel was brilliant, a brilliant move. I think he is literally a perfect fit for this defense in general. Chris Harris, he's very familiar with Staley's scheme. He's he's already been talking about mentoring Samuel. And in this later part of his career, he really wanted to just man up in the nickel. He really just wanted to be the nickel corner. So Asante Samuel, both those guys, they can play on the outside. They can play on the interior. So they could do a little bit of both. I think we're going to see kind of how last year with the Rams, we saw with Troy Hill and was it Darius Williams or Darius, something like that. Williams, those guys were basically interchangeable. You could drop them in the slot or you could drop them on the outside, which is great. You could give a lot of different looks with stuff like that. Michael Davis, I think he's a fine corner too. I don't know how he will hold up with tougher matchups, but regardless, I think he's a good corner to have on the roster regardless. After that, man, I don't feel great about the depth. Like Brandon Faison, he didn't see much time last year, I believe. And what it wasn't good. Let me just clarify, make sure I'm not thinking of someone else. Yeah, he literally barely saw the field. Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of 2019. He saw a grip of snaps in 2019. But yeah, I mean, he ain't really nothing special outside of his size. But yeah, I mean, hopefully no one gets hurt. Maybe they're really high on Campbell. We'll learn more with training camp coming up when they put him in pads. A lot of people take the mini camps and they take a lot of things to heart, but keep in mind the full roster ain't there. They're not in pads. We're gonna learn a lot more about what's going on in training camp rather than these mini camps. So don't put your eggs all in that basket. Overall, I think the secondary has the potential to be very, very good. How are they gonna have to win though? They're gonna have to win with pass rush. I mean, they got a good run stuffer in Linval Joseph at the nose tackle position. It's really a question about will Jerry Tillery step up in this new role where he was not able to be a gap penetrator in Gus Bradley's defense. They really set this dude up for failure. Like, he just couldn't handle the NFL strength. But I think I said Gus Bradley, right? Regardless, with Brandon Staley, like, I think you could really tap into the explosiveness of Jerry Tillery. And he could really, maybe he slides to 5 tech and just can burst through those gaps. Regardless, Justin Jones, let's talk about Justin Jones because he put up quite the year last year. He was pretty solid. For a 3rd round pick they got, like 3 years ago? Like, I think he's developed quite nice, and I easily should see more snaps than Tillery when they go to their sub packages. I'd probably have Jones on the field, and depending on the down and distance, Joseph or Tillery, those guys you could probably rotate in and out. I think the interesting name to bring, well, Christian Covington, he's a journeyman at this point, but I think he's a solid depth guy. But Forrest Merrill, this might be a guy that not even makes the roster, but he's an undrafted free agent at Arkansas State. Stupid strong. Maybe a guy that weasels in there and might be the heir apparent to Linval Joseph, but that's just projecting. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of pressure from Joey Bosa. They're going to set it up to where he just can fly around that corner. Beautiful. They might even have him drop back into coverage a little bit. I actually like it better with Nwosu. I'm going to butcher that homie's name, unfortunately. Because he was actually pretty solid in coverage. Like, he only dropped back, like, I think it was like 100 snaps in coverage last year. But still, like, having that capability, I think that's really, really good. And I'm going to be honest, I just see him as more of a rotation player, a rotation pass rusher. I think Kyler Fackrell. He's gonna come in. He's gonna eat some of those snaps, but also obviously he's gonna be like the edge 2 on the squad. But I expect to see some Fackrell. Then Chris Rumpf. I loved that at Duke. He's trying to put on size. Watch for him, but until he does put on that size healthily, because he went to the combine, he got up to I think 245 or even 250, but he didn't do any of the drills. He didn't run, probably because he put on all this bad weight just to be like, hey guys, look, I'm the size. I ain't working out though. So he's a guy that's definitely that they can develop, and you watch out. You can see some big things. When it comes to the linebackers, because Staley, he's never really cared about his linebackers. I mean, just look at the Rams. Their linebacker core is not great. Kind of trash. Subpar. But it's not a detriment to the defense. And I think he's working with a better linebacker core than he did in L.A. Rams. But obviously Kenneth Murray, I think they're going to get him involved much more as a blitzer, which that's scary. Watch out. I think that's where he's at his best, because this guy does have sideline to sideline type of athleticism, type of speed. Just doesn't in coverage, man. He could be a liability at times, but honestly, that can get better. I mean, just look what Devin White, how it took him like a full 3 years to kind of get 2.5. To be specific, to get where he was at, and where he was playing was tremendously high level. Not saying Kenneth Murray, he doesn't have that type of athleticism, but by no means is he a slouch himself. So just having a guy that has that potential, that upside, you feel good about. It's going to be interesting to see who starts at linebacker next to him, because you got Drew Tranquill, who's been a special team guy for the most part. But I like him a lot when he's in the game. Like, he's pretty solid. You have Kaiser White, who's been solid in his own right, but I think I would go with Tranquill. And then obviously they drafted Nick Neum, but let's be honest, it was like, late day 3, so how much does that really matter? He's just a good depth piece at this point. Guy to watch out for is another Oklahoma State cat, Amen. I'm not going to try to pronounce that last name, but linebacker at Ohio State or Oklahoma State. Probably makes the practice squad, but I think he's a guy that could definitely be a good depth piece down the road. But overall, this defense, I think it's really going to come down to the secondary. First off, can they stay healthy? Adderley's had a season-ending injury. Derwin James, we haven't been able to see him for a full season since his rookie season. Chris Harris, he's a vet, so he might be prone to injury. But the guy's a stinking lunch pail. Come in to work, he could have his foot broken off, and he gonna play. So injuries honestly could really derail the secondary. It'll be interesting to see. How will Mike Davis hold up on the outside? Who will be the corner 2? Will it be Chris Harris? Will it be Asante Samuel? Maybe Campbell. Maybe they're really that high on Campbell. Again, we'll know a lot more during training camp, but I'm just going to kind of assume it's Harris and Samuel. So let's go ahead and let's get to my projected starters. Again, when I do projected starters, it's not based on base defenses. I do it based off of who's going to see the field the most. I do it based on snaps. I don't really care what your base defense looks like. Tell me who's going to be on the field majority of the time. Almost all the NFL, they're almost a majority of the time in sub packages anyway, so that's why. So let's go ahead. Let's take a gander. We're going to start with the offense. And obviously, you got Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and I kind of alluded to Tyron Johnson, that I kind of have a bit more faith. I think he's been way more reliable than Guyton, and then also Josh Palmer, he'd be an interesting name in the mix here. And then Jared Cook, Rashawn Slater, I got Ibushi and Filer. Honestly, you could probably swap these guys at their respective guard positions. I've seen it both ways, so Corey Lindsey and then Brian Bulaga. Looking at the defense, I got Bosa, I got Nwosu, I got Joseph, I have Justin Jones, dude. Don't be sleeping on Jones, man. He got significantly better last year. Drew Tranquil, Kenneth Murray, Michael Davis. I got Asante Samuel being the outside corner with Chris Harris in the slot, but that could honestly be interchangeable. Then Nazir Adderley and Derwin James if he is healthy, God willing. So let's go ahead to the predictions. This is what you've been here for. And my predictions for the Los Angeles Superchargers, I got them at 9-8. So you might be like, what? We're a good team. What the heck? Yeah, 9-8 is actually a pretty good record. And the thing is, I do expect some regression from Herbert. Not so much that I think he's going to have like this big sophomore slump, kind of like with Baker Mayfield. But part of that was Baker Mayfield had Freddie Kitchens. And Freddie Kitchens is kind of bad. But they're also not helped out by it. They got a few tough games on the schedule. Having to face the AFC North is no easy task. Having to face the Browns, the Ravens. Look, I even have them winning games over the Browns and the Ravens. Like, watch out. And then they lose against the Steelers. What am I thinking? But I mean, facing the Cowboys early. I mean, shoot, man. What, Dak didn't get hurt till like week 4, week 5. So that's a scary offense you're going to have to keep up with. Obviously, facing the Chiefs twice a year is always a tough task. I have them going 3-3 in the division because division rivals, they just play each other very, very well. And overall, like, I have them having a winning record against losing teams and then a 500 record against winning teams. I feel like, yes, this team could be much better, but also, again, expecting Herbert to regress, new coaching staff, an overhaul. So I think there's some things that might be a bit harder to predict there. But 9-8 is what I went with. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And that's it for the video. Go ahead and do that YouTube thing. It's always much appreciated. Much obliged. And as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.